when it was filed, which what many people would think, being filed on the 25th of April, while others say it begins when the Speaker officially accepts the motion of no confidence. But good morning, Mr. Hamilton, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be on the program today.
Good morning, Mr. Cornelius, and good morning to your listeners both at home, abroad, on the internet, on the airwaves. Just permit me to give credit and thanks to many of the people who have been on this program before me, from Clive Bacchus, Kalunji, the Old Clarks, etc., who have been on Win FM over the years, the Alistair Yearwood, who and others who would traverse the waters from time to time to be here to educate and inform the public about current events and happenings, not only here in the Federation, but around the world. And this program has been ongoing and almost all the time that Win FM has been on the air. So I'm always glad to be and associated with it and a contributor on Saturdays, and Sundays.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton, and I look forward to a very good conversation with you here today on the program. So as I was saying in my opening comments, now you may have heard the recent developments coming out of the Team Unity Coalition, where the Governor General responded to the 6 elected representatives who wrote to him indicating that they no longer support Dr. Timothy Harris as Prime Minister. And his response essentially was saying that he has no constitutional power to do such. We are also still waiting for the legal or the independent legal advice that Speaker of the National Assembly, Michael Perkins, says that he is seeking on the motion of no confidence, where there is this debate going on right now that he would first have to accept the motion in order for it to be officially recognized and for the official count to begin. That's 1. And 2, whether government ministers can file a motion of no confidence. But can I get your take on the response by the Governor General, where he essentially said that he cannot accept the request by the 6 elected representatives as he has no
Do you
power.
have the statement with you?
I have the statement, so I will...
read it so that the audience know exactly what
Absolutely.
we're speaking of, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely. So the statement I have here, let me just
Pull it up.
be sure I have the correct thing.
Yeah.
So he says here, "Dear elected representatives, I have reviewed your communication requesting the Governor General to remove the Prime Minister and to appoint another minister in his stead. I wish to advise that under our Constitution, no such power resides in the Governor General, and I am therefore unable to accede to your request," with his signature at the bottom.
You see, it is interesting that interesting and unfortunate that is the position taken by the learned Governor General. Very interesting, but I would say unfortunate. If that is so, we live in a rogue state. We do, where a minority executive could hold the country ransom. A situation arose in Trinidad some years ago where after an election there was 18-18. There was an incumbent governor. There was an incumbent prime minister. Because even when the House is dissolved, Pandey was the prime minister throughout that time.
Right.
At the end of the election, it was 18-18, so there was no clear person who the governor, the president at the time, could say won that election and he could appoint as prime minister. convention told people that you don't really remove the president or the governor general doesn't really remove an incumbent. But the president at the time decided that on moral grounds, right, moral and ethical grounds, he was removing the sitting Prime Minister, Basdia Pandey, and put in place Mr. Manning. Now, somebody would say, well, under the Constitution, there was no enlisted power for the president to do that. Where did he get the inherent power from? And I would basically say to you that the power to appoint includes the power to disappoint. And it's not Chesley Hamilton who says so. Our laws in the Federation, in our Interpretation Act, says so. Okay? Cap 1.02. Here is it? One of the first very acts in our series of laws. The Interpretation Act says that the power to appoint includes the power to disappoint or the power to remove. And I says that because it specifically references the Governor General. And it says where he has to appoint any person, whether in his own deliberate judgment or on the advice of any person or authority. When it comes to removal, it includes the power to remove that person. All that he would have to do is consult with that person or authority when he chooses to do so. So therefore, if the person who advised you to appoint the Prime Minister is the majority of elected representatives, and the elected representatives advise you to remove him, you consult, and you can decide to do so, or you could decide not to do so, but don't tell me you don't have the power to do so.
I'm following you.
Don't tell me you don't have the power to do so. That is, at best, nonsensical. At best, nonsensical. And I say that with no water in my mouth. We do not live in a lawless state. We are being intellectually dishonest, and we are being intellectually lazy. That's all I would say when it comes to things like this. Intellectually dishonest and lazy. We live in a country of a written constitution, the supreme law of the land. Even if there is not an enumerated ground in the constitution, there is something that we call analogous grounds. Analogous grounds. What are analogous grounds? You know, normally they say you don't discriminate based on race, color, creed, class, and so on.
Right.
In most constitutions, you'll never find the words sexual orientation. You ain't gonna find it.
No.
Okay? But try discriminating now on sexual orientation. Huh? They can tell you it's an analogous ground. It is similar to. It is like those other grounds that defines a person, the characteristics, and therefore you cannot discriminate based on those things. We cannot exist in a lawless society. There was a time when you and I had no rights in society because of our color of our skin. You tell me now because it isn't written in the original document or in the constitutional document that you have no rights? At best, rubbish. I mean, sometimes you could take rubbish and recycle it and make something useful. But at best, I'm simply telling you, to say that to a public is willful blindness, peddling in ignorance, and very disturbing. Coming from people who are learned, seasoned, matured, and gifted in all sorts of fields and endeavors. To serve the narrow purpose of one man, a despot of a prime minister. And people must stop it. It is time for Timothy Harris to leave, to exit, and stop holding St. Kitts Nevis ransom for his own personal aggrandizement.
Mr. Hamilton, thank you for your take on the response of the Governor General. It is 19 minutes past the hour, so we'll take this break to give a shout out to the sponsors, and when we come back, we will continue the conversation right here on Inside the News. For those of you who are just joining us, we have on the program today Mr. Chesley Hamilton, and we are having a discussion on the latest developments in the Team Unity Coalition, their current public discord, the response from the Governor General indicating that he has, well, there is no, what he says, there is no constitutional power to remove the sitting prime minister and appoint another minister, and the motion of no confidence that remains a hot topic here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We'll take this break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation right here on WINNFM 98.9.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. It is 11:22, and we are continuing the conversation for today. On the panel is Mr. Chesley Hamilton, and we are commenting on the recent developments coming out of the Team Unity Coalition. Of course, well, things surrounding that, the response by the Governor General, and of course, we'll be tackling the motion of no confidence, which was filed on April 25th, and we are still waiting from the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Michael Perkins, to indicate to the public what what the legal advice says that he was seeking. I have here with me the St. Christopher Nevis Interpretation Act, and it in section 26 it says it speaks to power to appoint, includes power to remove. It says where any act confers upon any person or authority power to make appointments to any office or place, the power shall be construed as including the power to remove or suspend any person appointed, and to reappoint or reinstate him or her, and to appoint another person temporarily in the place of any person so removed or suspended, or in place of any holder of the office or place who has died or is ill or absent, and to appoint another person temporarily to fill any vacancy in the office or place arising from any other cause, provided that where the power of the person or authority to make any such appointment is only exercisable upon the recommendation or subject to the approval, consent, or concurrence of some other person or authority, the power of removal shall, unless the contrary intention appears, only be exercisable upon the recommendation or subject to the approval, consent, or concurrence of that other person or authority. This is from the Interpretation Act. Chapter 26 speaks to power to appoint, includes power to remove. Mr. Hamilton, your take.
As it says, cap 1 point, what is it, 02?
Yes.
Yeah, chapter 1.02.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's section 26.
Yes.
Now, when we say, okay, you're going to the Interpretations Act, I only go to the Interpretation Act to educate the people on the word appoint and what it entails. He who appoint must be able to disappoint. It is trite. It is common sense. Okay? Just imagine you want to appoint somebody, but you cannot remove them. So once you appoint them, they becomes a dictator. Then we don't need a person. We need a computer that cannot think. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And for anyone who in high office wants to tell me that or tell the public that is a travesty. It's bordering on fraudulent. Now somebody's going to tell me, oh, it's an act. So the Constitution, is the Constitution an act or the Constitution is not an act?
Because
let me
Yeah.
give you that one
Yeah,
because
go
I know
ahead.
they're going to say that. Anybody who wants to tell me our Constitution is not an act of our Parliament, let it come. It's a statutory order, an order in council of the British Parliament, but anybody who wants to come, I like to take these things in stages. I don't like to give you all at once because when you're dealing with law, it makes no sense giving somebody everything one time. Give them in stages. But I will wait for that conversation too, because I will point them to a few places, whether in the preamble to direct them, or more so on the last page that is not in the Constitution but attached to the Constitution. It's in the Constitution but attached to it. I'll point them to those two things.
I think part of the conversation or the argument that is being advanced surrounding whether the Governor General can appoint or remove a sitting Prime Minister, I think what those that I've heard have been leaning to is while he has the constitutional authority to appoint the Prime Minister, they are suggesting that instead of just removing him because of the six or majority of the National Assembly indicating that they have no supporting him, they are suggesting that because there is a clear path, such as the motion of no confidence, they are suggesting that that should be the way.
Yeah.
What is your take?
There are clear paths to a lot of things. There is a clear path to appointing the Prime Minister, too. I'm not hearing anybody say, well, the clear path to appoint the Prime Minister is that you look at the person who may, in your opinion, I'm going to put it this way, not in the Governor General's opinion, in your opinion, commands the majority at the end of an election. And let's say in 2015, as Sir Edmund Lawrence did, right? He called Sean Richards because Pam had 4 seats. And he said, Mr. Richards, please form a government. And Sean Richards said, I support Dr. Timothy Harris to form a government. Sir Edmund Lawrence at that point in time would not have been wrong to call Denzel Douglas, who had a command of 3 seats. Marcella and Congress, I think it was.
Yes. Yes.
Marcella and Congress. And so, Mr. Honorable Denzel Douglas, could you form a government and command the majority of the elected members? And then Denzel Douglas would have looked around the room and said, well, boy, the two guys in Nevis CCM, they don't support me. You know, that other guy for NRP, he doesn't support me. And none of the guys with PAM would support me, and neither would the PLP. The one from PLP. So I can't, Mr. Governor General. So Edmund would then be quite in order to then call on Mark Brantley and say, well, at that time, it wasn't even Mark Brantley. At that time, it was Vance Emery.
Yes.
And say, Mr. Emery, could you form a government? You have 2 seats. And Mr. Emery would say, well, no, because I would lend my support to someone else to form a government. He would be right to go through that exercise. No one could have faulted the Governor General for conducting that exercise, because that is the process. Not swearing in Timothy Harris, because in his own judgment, no one could tell him that Timothy commanded the majority. That had to come from an indication from someone like Sean Richards and the others who signed off on that. It is that information that informs him so to do through his consultation. And that's how Timothy Harris became Prime Minister. Okay? From his own deliberate judgment, he could not see Timothy Harris commanding the majority without an indication, without information. Otherwise, it meant he went off on a frolic of his own.
That's his reason why he called Richards.
Amen. So then I am simply telling you, if you reach down to the one man, Timothy Harris, and Timothy Harris says, yes, I have the support of the 4 people from PAM, and I also have the support of the 2 from CCM, and I command the majority support of the people in the parliament because of their indication to him. That is the information. You can't pull it out of thin air. You cannot pull it out of thin air. That is the process. And therefore, Edmund Lawrence was right. Whether Sir Tapley Seaton did a similar exercise in 2020, or somehow he had the indication when Sean and Timothy appeared before him, I don't know. I don't know. But if Sean went to him on principle and said, we still support, and he spoke on behalf of his caucus and said, we still support Timothy Harris, and he acted on that. Well, if Sean goes back and says, we no longer support, does he have a duty to act? In law, morally, or otherwise? I'm just simply telling you, no one is going to pull wool over my eye because of where they stand in the argument. They must appeal to me by logic, reason, and based on my understanding. When I pray a morning time, I don't pray for money or wealth. I pray the prayer of Solomon. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. With the knowledge, if God gives me the wisdom and make me wise and I can apply it, I try to get some understanding. And my understanding is what I am trying to impart here.
Right.
By reading for more and more knowledge. And I'm simply saying, to tell me and give me an answer that he does not have the power, when he has the power to appoint based on information, or based on whether he's consulting his information or in his own deliberate judgment, is to tell me also that the converse is true when time for removal. And therefore, I am simply asking for right and justice to be done when we put people in positions of authority. Ignorance in high places is fatal. Ignorance in high places is fatal. We do not want ignorance. And if it's willful blindness, parading as ignorance, it is worse.
Did you anticipate this response from the Governor General?
There's some bets I like to lose. This is one of those bets that I wanted to lose.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. That's my answer.
All right.
And anybody knows Chesley that knows when he bets sometimes, he bets because he wants to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been known to place those kind of bets. I will bet you that you don't get, you know, if you are 21 at this point in time, I'll bet you, and you don't have a driver's license, I'll bet you that you don't get a driver's license by the time you're 22. The truth is, I want you to get your license.
Right.
So it's a bet I want to lose.
Right.
You understand? And I will bet you, without you putting up a cent, that you don't get your driver's license. In other words, there's an incentive to get your driver's license. I'm going to give you the money. That's how I would bet. And people know that I would do things like that.
Right.
Okay? Because that's how I like to encourage. I like people to earn things. So I will tell you, you want $1,000 from me? I'm going to give you it. I'm betting you don't get your driver's license by the time your next birthday. You know? You work on it, you get it. If you don't get it, I didn't lose anything and you didn't lose anything. It's just that you don't have your driver's license.
Right.
I do things like that from time to time.
But you know, and thank you for your take on this. I've been listening to all sides on this argument of the debate going on, the response from the Governor General. I saw a statement from Pam which I would pull up and read for the benefit of yourself and the listeners.
Yes, please.
But essentially, the People's Action Movement, they were not pleased with what the Governor General says. But let me read what they have. It says, "We, the MPs of both the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement caucuses, have received a response from His Excellency the Governor General, stating that he has no constitutional power to remove a sitting Prime Minister. His written response was because of the submission recently presented and signed by 6 of the sitting MPs stating that they had lost confidence in Prime Minister Timothy Harris. We are naturally disappointed with the conclusion, but respect the ruling of the Governor General on this matter. We had hoped for a different result having shared with His Excellency the cogent and compelling legal advice to the contrary received from learned English Queen's Counsel. Notwithstanding and consistent with the legal advice that we have obtained, we were not waiting on His Excellency, but have since filed a motion of no confidence in the Parliament, which we expect will be debated and passed shortly. We reiterate that the Prime Minister in our democracy is never elected. He or she is always selected by the majority of elected members of Parliament, and his or her office and legitimacy depend on the ongoing support of that majority.
Sound and consistent. Continue.
That is it right there.
Okay.
Signed by the leader of the People's Action Movement, Sean Richards. Now, with the motion of no confidence that was filed on April 25th, that in and of itself is another part of the conversation where some are saying, well, government ministers cannot file a motion of no confidence, or government ministers can file a motion of no confidence.
Only in countries where black people are in power. That is so. Because just a while ago in the BVI, they did the same thing. A white governor general, a Caucasian governor general, a governor, was able to swear in a new premier.
Right.
So it's okay for people of a different ilk and a different hue to see things differently than us, and I resent that. I resent it because I know it is quite possible for you, any member of any member of Parliament, to file a motion of no confidence, but in specifically one in the government, that is to remove the Prime Minister. It is about the elected members. And if the majority of elected members do not support that person, that is the indication to trigger the other stuff. Now, I keep hearing people talking about, if you're part of a government, you can't file a motion against yourself. Really?
Yeah. What is your take on that?
And their suggestion is, they should resign from the cabinet and file it. Bunch of rubbish. Rubbish. And here's how I'm going to take you through this one. When the government was formed in 2015, who went to the Governor General to be sworn in first? Do you remember?
It was Mr. Richards?
No. It was, I don't mean who he called.
Sorry.
Went to be sworn in?
It was, I believe it was Dr. Harris.
And?
I'm not certain.
Good. But it was Dr. Harris and the AG.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Dr. Harris and the AG was sworn in, and that formed the government. Okay?
A Prime Minister and the Attorney General.
And a senator. Okay? The Attorney General. And that was the executive. The others were sworn in Warner Park. You remember that?
Yes.
In Warner Park. And then when they went to Parliament for the first sitting, then they took the oath for Parliament. But the executive was sworn in and formed the executive branch of the government when those two went to the Governor General. So what would you say if all of them resign and leave the Prime Minister and the AG? Would you think we have a government? You tell me. I want you to answer me the government.
You won't have a government.
You would. Yes, you would.
Yeah?
So it would be lunacy for anybody in cabinet to resign, giving him a proper government.
Because if they resign, you'll still have the Prime Minister himself and the AG.
Yeah, running the government.
All right.
Yeah, they won't be able to go to Parliament. They won't be able to pass anything, but they could still do things. Why would you give him a quorum or a majority in his cabinet when he doesn't have it right now? To resign is stupidity. because he has no majority in his own cabinet. We have a dysfunctional government right now because the majority of the cabinet does not support the prime minister, the chairman of the cabinet. But you know, time is longer than twine. And you know why time is longer than twine? Because this same constitution here, this same constitution here, at section I think is 46, says something about parliament. Says something about parliament. And I think what it says there is that parliament can go no longer than 180 days without sitting. The last parliament that we had was in December. So time is longer than twine. Moon could run until they catch it. They have to have a parliament. They have to have a parliament. Before, I think the budget was around 13, 15, somewhere there of December. I don't quite remember. Have to have one before that day in June. So let they try to postpone. Let Mr. Porkins think he need legal advice on how to bring a motion of no confidence and whether it's in order or whether it's not. And let him try to say, well, you know, he's not going to hear this person or he ain't going to hear that person to amend whatever order, you know, is on the order paper or whatever. Let him try to perpetuate a rogue state on behalf of Timothy Harris. Let him try.
With the motion of no confidence being filed by the 6 elected representatives who are members of the government, they filed as elected representatives, not as ministers of government or government ministers or cabinet ministers. And in all of the communication that I've seen from the GG, the Governor General, he is recognizing them as elected representative of parliament for whatever area they are for. So part of what many have been saying is that being a government minister should not restrict you from
your role as a parliamentarian, elected representative.
Right.
And in the capacity as elected representative and under their hand, they have written to him. That is where you call the divisions of government, because there is the executive and there is the legislature. 6 members of the elected legislature. We have a unicameral legislature. We don't have 2 different houses. But 2 members of the House of Representatives, elected to the House of Representatives, are 6 members, so to speak. They have written to the Governor General. This is political science 101, the division of powers, the judiciary, right? The parliament, the legislature, and the executive, the cabinet. You know what's the 4th branch? You know the 4th branch?
The 4th branch of
government.
Tell me. I'm losing it.
The 4th branch? I lost you. Yeah, you're back in. Yeah?
I'm losing it here. Remind me of it.
You. The press.
The people.
The press.
The press.
No. The government is the people of the government. You know, that's the sovereign more often than not. The people. Always really vested in the people. But I'm saying that to you. 4th branch is the press.
So we have a role to play.
You have a role to play. You understand? And there are people who say they prefer to live in a country where there's a free press than to live in one without a free press.
It is 11:47, Mr. Hamilton. We'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Of course, we want to open the phone lines to hear from you, the callers. You can call us at 466-0989 or 7620989. For those of you who are just joining the program, I'm on here with Mr. Chesley Hamilton, and we are having a discussion centered around the response from the Governor General indicating that he has no constitutional power to remove the sitting Prime Minister, one, and the conversation of the motion of no confidence filed on April 25th by the leader of the People's Action Movement and Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards, and of course supported by 5 other elected representatives of the National Assembly. We'll take this short break and we will be right back.
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basse-Terre or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. It is 10 minutes to the 12 o'clock hour. Of course, we break at 12 for the headline news, and we come back to continue the conversation right here on WINNFM 98.9. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Mr. Hamilton, the motion of no confidence. I spoke with some legal minds. I have been speaking with some legal minds, and I've been getting different perspectives, different arguments, but very strong, very compelling. And let me say it's a 50-50. One side is saying that the motion of no confidence, the official count commences after the motion has been filed. In this case, the motion was filed on Monday, April 25th at 3:11 p.m. And another side is saying, well, the official count commences when the speaker officially accepts and recognizes the motion of no confidence. So I'm asking you, when does the official count begin? Is the clock already running? That is my question to you.
Again, and somebody's going to ask me, well, where is that listed? Where is that enumerated? Where is that? Who set the rules? You know, one thing I know about rules, okay? There are rules, and if a body is entitled to make its own rules, that even makes it worse. So, parliamentary rules, orders, and regulations and standards, how do you deal with this? One can play with words, one could play with interpretations in order to justify whatever you want to justify. Okay? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that the 1% is right. Sometimes the 1% carries the day at first instance. And if that person cannot be reviewed in their own, when they make an order or a rule, it makes it worse. But is it right? Is it morally, ethically right or correct? And what is the true spirit of the law? What these people are doing is subverting the will of the majority. That's all. All of this delay is delay and tricks and games is to subvert the will of the majority of the people. We have a representative democracy. The people vote for their representatives, and then the representatives go to parliament to act on behalf of the people. And if the representatives have indicated, the majority of the representatives say, listen to me, this is what we would like. Any delay or frustration or shenanigans to be a stumbling block in the way of the will of the people is nothing but that. Justice denied. Justice delayed is justice denied. And that's all it is. So it is, as I would say to you, whichever principle you want to apply, apply. Whichever one, for me, a decision maker has a decision to make. But not making a decision is also a decision. There was once a person who said that Parliament is the highest court in the land. That person was wrong. The judiciary is the highest court in the land. And even parliamentary action can be reviewed. So if that person refuses to put an order, the motion on the order paper, the court can be moved in no time. Now, you say, well, why move the court? You will have to move the court on an urgent matter. Yeah, you would like to move the court on an urgent matter, and then they give directions to say, well, hey, directions are going to say, well, this matter is going to spread out over a number of weeks and over the entire summer. That they would like that. No. There is no need for any of that. And let's say that they're thinking that that's the way to go. There's a quick fix. There's a quick fix. The motion of no confidence is not just supported by 6 members of cabinet, I believe that when the motion comes, the Labour MPs are going to support that motion as well. So if somebody erroneously think that they can frustrate the will not only of the majority of people from CCM, PAM, and Labour for the personal interest of one man in PLP, then let them go, because it's a quick fix. The leader of the opposition could bring a motion of no confidence in the government. And he will get the support of those 6 people. Yet it will frustrate them for another 21 days. But let them continue. I say moon runs until they catch it. And they cannot go beyond the 180 days that is outlined in Section 46 of the Constitution.
Well, but let me add this. Now, Dr. Douglas, the leader of the opposition in the House, he filed a motion of no confidence, I believe was December of 2020. And that was heard in reasonable time, in good time, right?
Yes.
Now we are seeing where the Deputy Prime Minister has filed a motion of no confidence, and I think more than perhaps 2 weeks, well, going on 2 weeks, we have not heard from the Speaker whether this motion will be heard and tabled in Parliament.
Right. But you remember Mr. Willock was on WINNMedia Family yesterday.
Yes.
And Mr. Willock said he has been in contact with, and he was the Speaker in the BVI. He has been in contact with a certain individual here in St. Kitts, and he's a friend of that person. And one wonders if that person was encouraging him not to put the motion on the order paper in the BVI, why he had to resign and leave and then stop frustrating the will of the people. And now the new Speaker of the House put it on, and people in the BVI can go on with a government in place to do the will of the people.
But
So if they can get over those hurdles,
Right.
you understand? Why can't we get over our hurdles?
And I understand what you're saying, but if Dr. Douglas were to file a motion of no confidence, do you think it will be treated the same way as it is being treated now, or would we see another December 2020?
Well, the issue is they are running from it. They are running from it. Not that they. The Prime Minister is running from it, and he's trying everything that he can to encourage those around him that are parasites sucking the blood of the nation. Okay? And at the end of all of that, it is all to serve their personal interest, not the interest of the country. Not the interest of the country. Not the interest of the country. Because as a country, we do not have a functional cabinet. And we do not have a functional parliament. And how can you govern when two branches of government are dysfunctional at this point in time? Okay? And hoping that they might be able to use the third branch and frustrate efforts in the third branch so that nothing can be done and they can perpetuate themselves illegitimately in office. We can't allow it.
I want to read something before we break for the headline news. The motion of no confidence legislation provides for the period within which a question of no confidence must be addressed by the National Assembly and for related matters. It states that where a question of no confidence in the government is brought before the National Assembly in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and the National Assembly Elections Act, the question of no confidence shall be determined by resolution of the National Assembly within a period not exceeding 21 days. I spoke with a lawyer, and he was of the view that if brought before the National Assembly were to mean when the Speaker accepts it, that would then say that, well, that piece of legislation then means nothing. And the 21 days really means nothing. But we're going to catch up on that when we come back, Mr. Hamilton. We're out of time. We'll take this break for the headline news. But when we come back, we will begin there, and we will continue this conversation on the motion of no confidence.
And open the lines to the callers.
Absolutely.
No problem.
You are listening to the first hour of Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. We'll take this break for the headline news, and when we come back, we will continue the program. For those of you who just joined us, we have on the panel Mr. Chesley Hamilton. We'll take this break, and we will be right back.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly Wall with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
I am Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines,
Veteran politician Eugene Hamilton withdraws from People's Action Movement.
Minister of Agriculture says more investment required to ensure food security becomes reality in St. Kitts and Nevis. U.S. prosecutor files appeal against $500,000 bail granted to Andrew Foy. An explosion at a hotel in Cuba killed at least 22 people and was likely caused by a gas leak, according to President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Internationally, the UK's Conservative Party has lost hundreds of seats in local council elections. The main opposition, Labour Party, made significant gains in London, but was less successful outside the capital. Now, the details.
Constituency 8 representative and long-serving politician Eugene Hamilton will not contest another general election on the People's Action Movement PAM slate of candidates. Chairman of PAM, the Honorable Jonel Powell, confirmed Mr. Hamilton's decision today, May 7th.
Hamilton has indicated to the political leader and myself that he has no intention of running for another general election.
PAM has begun its search in earnest for Hamilton's replacement as they continue preparations for a national election, which many feel is likely to be called in the coming weeks.
We are just wrapping up that process, not just for constituency number 8, but for those constituencies in which we have not fielded candidates in the last 2 elections. And we will be announcing a full slate of candidates for all 8 constituencies shortly.
Powell told WINNFM that Eugene Hamilton remains on the national executive of the People's Action Movement and has indicated that he will support his successor.
The annual agriculture fair hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture returned this year and provided an opportunity for stakeholders in the sector to showcase their goods and earn revenue. The 2-day fair is also a chance for students to see the possibilities available in careers as farmers and agro-processors. More people involved in the trade would help St. Kitts and Nevis reduce their dependence on imported goods that could be grown and produced in country, bolstering our sustainability.
Sustainability really deals with affordability, availability and accessibility to food. And as such, we have done a number of things. One, we have certainly played a part in ensuring that the necessary resources are available to our farmers. We have given out fencing wire, we have given out seedlings. We have sought to improve the access to water as well. We have some water tanks that will be distributing to those farmers who are having difficulty accessing water for their farms.
Said the Minister with responsibility for agriculture, the Honourable Alexis Jeffers, in an interview at the fair. The challenge of reliable water sources for the continued and consistent production flow persists, especially when the island enters its dry period. Farmers in the Federation predominantly rely on rainwater as the water source. The Ministry of Agriculture has procured over 100 water tanks to be distributed shortly, according to Minister Jeffers.
As we get towards the drier months, we'll continue to see the level of production that we want to continue throughout the year, because it's a 12-month thing. We eat every day, we eat every week, we eat every month, and we eat throughout the entire year, so food must be available.
The minister also shared that work continues in strengthening the genetics of livestock on the island, with access to stronger, healthier breeds of animals. The minister said that more investment is required in order to make sustainability a reality through strategic collaborations.
We don't want sustainability to be just merely a word, but we want it to be seen, felt, and experienced to the point where everyone buys into our thought and our thinking. So agriculture on a whole, I believe we have had some good reviews over the last 2 years, and this is not to suggest that nothing much was happening prior to 2 years ago. But with the onset of COVID-19, it brought a new perspective to agriculture.
Jeffers said the current supply chain issues and rising cost to import food should be cause for motivation to invest in our agricultural capabilities.
Right now we're experiencing tremendous difficulties in terms of the supply chain and the impact that has had in terms of food not being available. Many countries are now seeing about feeding themselves, so we now have to have that same type of thinking where we can feed ourselves in the event that this is a prolonged process whereby food is difficult to access and transportation, as it is being expensive, we're not getting what we should get. So all these are wrapped up in the whole thought of sustainability and resilience and also food security.
The work continues to build out the sector so the Federation can inevitably feed itself in the future. In regional news, former Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Foy, will remain detained by the United States authorities after U.S. prosecutor Juan Gonzalez filed an appeal against Foy's $500,000 bail. According to regional media outlets, as a result of the filing, Foy's bail offer is on hold pending the appeal's conclusion, placing him back in the custody of the state of Florida. At the pre-trial detention hearing on Wednesday, May 4th, Foy was released on a $500,000 bond and was expected to remain in Miami at the rented home of his two daughters, with his and his family surrendering their travel documents and Foy under house arrest. Foy was arrested in the United States last week on drug and money laundering charges, which led to his most recent dismissal as the Premier of the British Virgin Islands, with his former deputy now replacing him as Premier. According to BVI News, Foy's wife, Sheila Forbes Foy, is also under restriction, although she was allowed to attend the funeral of Foy's sister, who passed after her brother's arrest. However, the judge said once these duties are completed, Foy's wife must surrender her passport and travel documents. The duo's matter, including Port Authority Director Oline Vine Maynard, who invoked her right to remain silent, was set for arraignment on May 13th, but reports suggest the date was changed to May 25th, 2022. An explosion at a hotel in Cuba killed at least 22 people and was likely caused by a gas leak, according to President Miguel Diaz-Canal. Carib Update has more.
A strong explosion hit a well-known hotel in downtown Havana on Friday, tearing a gash several floors high into the side of the building and injuring at least one person. witnesses and Cuban state media said. Photos from Granma, the Communist Party's official daily, showed images of the multi-story Hotel Saratoga with walls apparently blown out by the blast. It was not immediately clear what caused the explosion. According to reports, witnesses saw smoke and flames coming from the building. Police and rescue workers flocked to the scene, cordoning off key points and buildings nearby, including the historic Capitolio building. A photo from the scene showed what appeared to be at least one body on the scene with a white cloth over it. The hotel was remodeled by a British company after the fall of the Soviet Union and was considered the place to go for visiting government officials and celebrities for many years. Recently, it had lost some of its shine while the opening of new hotels in Havana, but was still a five-star venue. Recently, it had lost some of its shine with the opening of new hotels in Havana, but was still a five-star venue. The hotel had been set for a post-pandemic reopening in 4 days, according to its Facebook page.
We now bring you these international reports.
This was a Labour win that couldn't have been closer to home for the Conservatives. The party had controlled local government in Westminster since 1964. Now, for the first time, the famous streets of power here are run by a Labour-controlled City of Westminster Council. London boroughs Barnet and Wandsworth also fell to the Labour Party. Wandsworth was taken after 44 years of Conservative rule. But despite the elation of Labour's leader, Keir Starmer, outside London, Labour gains were turning out to be modest. He was nevertheless in good cheer.
This is a massive turning point for the Labour Party. From the depths of 2019, we're back on track now for the general election, showing what the change that we've done, the hard change we've done in the last 2 years, what a difference it has made.
But had this been a general election, the results wouldn't have stacked up to make Keir Starmer Prime Minister. Boris Johnson chose to visit a school in West London as results were coming in. The maths weren't good for the Prime Minister.
That's right. It's mid-term and it's certainly a mixed set of results, and we've had a tough night in some parts of the country, but on the other hand, in other parts of the country, you're still seeing Conservatives going forward and making quite remarkable gains in places that haven't voted Conservative for a long time, or if ever.
Partygate, the scandal over COVID rule breaches in Downing Street, including by Johnson himself, loomed large in this election. But the overall damage to the governing Conservative Party is less than expected. And for Labour, out of the blue, something to dampen the celebrations. Police have announced they've reopened an investigation into claims that Starmer also breached COVID regulations when drinking beer in an office with a group of colleagues. In essence, the message from London voters doesn't reflect the mood all over the country. However, the Conservative Party will have to work hard to try to quell mid-term dissent. And so these results aren't really a disaster, but at the very least they serve as a big warning shot, and the main target has been Boris Johnson for his wrongdoings and his style of leadership. Many Londoners have given a negative verdict to the Conservative Party, and that's going to resonate in the corridors of power here. Andrew Simmons, Al Jazeera, London.
As the U.S. grapples with a likely end of Roe v. Wade, a small but growing number of companies like Yelp, Amazon, Citigroup, and Levi Strauss are pledging to cover costs of American employees who need to travel out of state for an abortion.
Having a benefits package.
Yelp's chief diversity officer, Miriam Warren, said the decision was made to ensure its workers have equal access to health care.
Abortion has always been a covered benefit in our healthcare plan. And when restrictive abortion bans like Texas's SB 8 came to pass, we recognized that in order to provide equal access to care for all of our employees, we would have to do more. And that more really looks like a travel benefit, so that if someone is in a state where they can't access the reproductive health care that they need, they can go to another state to get it, and we will reimburse the travel costs, including hotel and other associated costs.
And it could become a much-needed reimbursement, especially in light of the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion indicating the court is poised to overturn the constitutional right to abortion.
It becomes all that more important for companies to step in and make sure that they're taking care of their employees. And, this particular issue is an equity issue because it impacts women's careers and their lives in a big way.
Other major employers such as Walmart, Target, and Walt Disney have declined to weigh in. Some companies could be fearful of a growing trend among Republican lawmakers to punish them for taking a stand on social issues. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill in April stripping Disney of self-governing authority at its Orlando area parks in retaliation for its opposition to a new state law that limits the teaching of LGBTQ issues in schools. And dozens of House Republicans recently demanded that the chamber drop Citigroup as its provider of credit cards after the financial institution offered to pay travel costs for employees seeking abortions. The issue has gained urgency now that 31 states have introduced abortion bans this year, according to the Guttmacher Institute. By offering support to employees who may need to travel out of state for abortions, Yelp and other companies hope to gain an edge, attracting and retaining talent, as well as appearing socially responsible to investors.
And I think that for companies who care about issues of diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, they can't sit by and be silent on this issue because it really does impact every aspect of a woman's life.
What began as a sit-in protest at Parliament quickly turned into a violent confrontation. Police fired tear gas on the crowds and moved in to break up any resistance. The protesters say President Felix Tshisekedi plans to steal next year's election. And they'll keep up their campaign until he agrees to talk.
We're fighting for a credible electoral law from the Parliament which will allow us to have a good election next year so that we can kick out President Felix Tshisekedi. We're suffering in this country because of his fake governance.
This fight will continue from now until we have a good election in 2023. President Tshisekedi must go next year peacefully, through election. We will come back tomorrow till we have an agreement around the electoral law.
Tshisekedi became president in 2019, in the Democratic Republic of Congo's first peaceful transition of power. But now he's pushing through a reform to electoral laws that opponents fear will be used to disqualify his main rivals. The opposition wants national consensus on the best way to hold a fair election.
The president is controlling everything as a dictator. The only way to put pressure on him is to call on our population to take action against this regime.
Tshisekedi's reform plan has become a rallying cry for the opposition. If they aren't included in the process, it's likely that protests like these will continue. And failure to reach a consensus on next year's election could further complicate the nation's struggle for democracy. Fintan Monaghan, Al Jazeera.
You were listening to the WINNFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
veteran politician Eugene Hamilton withdraws from People's Action Movement.
Minister of Agriculture says more investment required to ensure food security becomes reality in St. Kitts and Nevis. U.S. prosecutor files appeal against $500,000 bail granted to Andrew Foy. An explosion at a hotel in Cuba killed at least 22 people and was likely caused by a gas leak, according to President Miguel Diaz-Canel. Internationally, the UK's Conservative Party has lost hundreds of seats in local council elections. The main opposition, Labour Party, made significant gains in London, but was less successful outside the capital. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organisation on St Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that National Bank offers very favorable terms and low interest rate to switch your home mortgage? Our in-house legal department will process your mortgage in a jiffy and free of cost. Switch your home mortgage now and get a peace of mind knowing that we are here for you. National Bank, always here.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
Found the sound 98.9 WINNMedia FM.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drugstore's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drugstore's curbside pickup service.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. It is 12:30 here in the studios of WINNFM 98.9 and you're tuned into Inside the News. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius, and we have on the panel with us today Mr. Chesley Hamilton. Earlier for the first hour, we discussed the response by the Governor General to the 6 elected representatives when they wrote indicating that they no longer support Dr. Timothy Harris as Prime Minister, and he told them that he does not have the constitutional power or authority to remove the sitting Prime Minister. We're also going to discuss or tackle the debate that is ongoing surrounding the motion of no confidence filed by the Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards and supported by the other 5 elected representatives, Brantley, Powell, Grant, Jeffers, and Evelyn. And part of the argument is that, well, they can't file because they're government ministers. That's one. And now we're hearing that the motion of no confidence, the official count, the 21 days, would only begin when the Speaker officially accepts and recognizes the motion of no confidence, or it could be that the clock is already ticking because it was filed on the 25th. Mr. Hamilton, when does the official count begin for this motion of no confidence?
Well, I like to allow those who have a decision to make their decisions, and let them tell you when the clock really begins. What I would say on behalf of myself and in Orbiter is this: if the clock begins when the Speaker accepts or receives it, is the Speaker, you're talking about an individual, so if that individual goes away and hide or has passed away, you cannot file? It makes no sense. I'm simply saying to you, it is an office. The Speaker is an office. And when you file with the clerk, you file something with the office, and that's when you get it stamped and it recognizes that it was filed at 3/11 on a specific date.
Yes. And
therefore, that's what you take as evidence to indicate that you properly large file something with the Speaker's office. Now, if it depends on the Speaker to acknowledge or to recognize and so on, again, you're saying to me that procedurally the Speaker can frustrate the will of the elected representatives of the people. Let me tell you, and I'm going to say this. The speaker is appointed. The speaker is not elected. And I say that to say again, we have moved away from colonialism. We have moved away from those who are appointed having more power than those who are elected. That is what Simmons, Bradshaw, Southwell, France, and all of those people, Manchester and those before, fought for. That is what people in this country died for. That the elected representatives must have more power than the appointed. They should have more power than the commissioners. They should have more powers than the administrators. The elected representatives must hold the power in this country, not appointed people. That is what Sam Conda left the side of Denzel Douglas over. In that he felt that Denzel Douglas wanted to, in the senator bill, increase the number of senators to give him a majority within cabinet to override the wishes and the will of the elected people in his cabinet. That is what Sam Conda fell out with Denzel Douglas over. Yet it looked like he was supporting Timothy Harris, and Timothy Harris took advantage of that. But fundamentally, it was the division between the appointed and the elected. And we want again to say that an appointed person in the office, let me put it correctly, in the office of the Speaker would somehow frustrate the will of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be born in St. Kitts, Keon, to be specific. And I'm proud that I live in a country that when I speak, I'm not going to end up dead tomorrow because of violence in some places like Uganda and so on right now. We don't want to deteriorate to those kind of places. I'm glad that democracy reigns in St. Kitts and Nevis, where the fourth estate is alive and I can come and talk and express my views in terms of what's going on in the country. But it's important to let people know what those who went before us fought over, what they marched for. They marched against the days when the administrator would appoint the cabinet, and Bradshaw and them had no power because the governor decided where money would spend and where money wasn't spent, and he appointed whoever he wanted to cabinet. And that is why these guys fight, so that they could have a local government elected by the people. Elected by the people. That has more power than the appointed people. That is why our constitution only allows 2 senators on behalf of the government and 1 on behalf of the opposition, appointed people. You get an extra in terms of how you deal with the governor. I mean, the attorney general.
Yeah.
But you do not want more appointed people in cabinet having more power than the people's representatives and people elected government. And when Denzel Douglas tried to increase the senators by bringing a new senators bill to increase the number of senators, to change that balance and that proportion, Sam Conda said, no. Okay? Because he's fundamentally a labor man. And he knew what Labour fought for over these years historically. That the appointed must not be elevated and have more power than those of the elected. Or frustrate the will of the people's representative and the people. And therefore, we can't encourage it. So I'm simply saying that decision will be made. It's not a decision for me to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I am simply hoping that right will be done. Never cease in well-doing. Never cease. And I will be critical and I will criticize when I see wrong. You know? Let me just divert a bit to make this comment. I listen to your news headlines and I hear the headline, Eugene Hamilton withdraw from PAM. And I felt that was a bit misleading in light of what followed.
Mm-hmm.
It says he withdrew as a candidate from
Right.
PAM. And he still supports, he's a member of PAM, he's a member of the executive of PAM,
Mhm.
and he will support his successor.
Yes.
In light of all of that, saying a headline, Eugene Hamilton withdrew from PAM, I think is misleading.
Well, we will definitely make that correction. We got some feedback from other people as well. But the chairman of PAM confirmed that Eugene is still a member, which we said in the article, is still a member of the People's Action Movement.
I agree that this article was
Yes.
more balanced, but the headline,
Mhm.
as a takeaway, would give me the impression that he's no longer a member of PAM,
Right.
or he's going to run independent, or he's left PAM and gone to be a member of PLP or somebody else. And that is not the impression
Right.
of the article or what the news item said. And therefore, I felt that was not balanced reporting. Again, I'm being critical of the Fourth Estate.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Mr. Hamilton, we want to take some calls right here on Inside the News. The phone lines are open. Call us at 466-0989 or 762-0989. You're given the opportunity to weigh in on the motion of no confidence filed on April 25th, and we are still waiting from the Speaker of the National Assembly in terms of his independent legal advice, and of course with the response from the Governor General indicating that he has no constitutional power to remove the sitting Prime Minister. The phone lines are open and we take your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. If I could, in the meantime, head to some of the comments that I'm seeing here on the live stream.
Yes.
Well, the person was basically asking for a response on the when does the clock start to hear
Mhm.
the motion, which you've answered already, basically. And he brought the Sinkis Nevis motion of no confidence act number 10 of 2019, which says timeline for resolution of no confidence, where a question, well, I read that already, alluding to the 21 days.
Yeah.
And it says, yes, 21 days. So we understand that, in this resolution or in this piece of legislation, that 21 days is the window. That is the window for the motion of no confidence to be heard. And one would take that to mean that when the motion is filed, the 21 days would begin right after that. But let me ask you this. Does the 21 days begin the day after, and does it include the weekends? But before you respond, we have a caller on the line. We'll take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, Chesley and the host. Chesley, I would think that having said all that,
Good afternoon.
I've been listening to this issue, and it appears to me like the Governor General made the right answer. It doesn't appear to me like the Constitution. I'm not no lawyer or anything, but I'm a citizen of this country. Got to make that clear. It appears to me like the Governor General made the right decisions and said the right thing. He does not have that authority. But I feel like the authority has been given to him when those who are elected give him the information that he needs. Then it's time for him to become the instrument to act. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
But he himself personally cannot act on his own. He's just a messenger. He's just a rubber stamp, in my opinion. And that is what he is to the Prime Minister, being supported by all the other elected representatives of the people. So that's what you call chain of command and power transfer and power reverse, because the power comes from the people to the elected representative, and the majority of the elected representative give him the authority to act. So he himself, by himself, without an action, it is by the people, for the people. And that's my opinion as a non-legal luminary.
Thank you, sir. The part about that I want to comment on is this. The Governor General cannot go off on a frolic of his own and remove a Prime Minister. So therefore, he does not have the power to just say, hey, I could remove a Prime Minister any day or every day or appoint one. He cannot. There's a process, there's a procedure in which he has to follow. And that is, he must understand if that person commands the majority of the elected representatives, not all the people in the executive, but the elected representative. And therefore, somehow he must get that information that the Prime Minister commands and therefore, that must be ongoing and continuous. Any credible government must continue in the exercise of simply saying, do you still command the majority of your representatives? And from time to time, you have the duty to inform the Governor General about the goings on of his cabinet. And therefore, that should be one of the things. You still possess the confidence of the elected representatives. And that is one of the things that should be always there, present and reported. You only govern and are the Prime Minister if you so have. And therefore, yes, he cannot tomorrow get up and say, on his own, Mr. Prime Minister, I don't like you. You got to go. No, that's not the process. And appoint somebody who he likes. No. There is a process. He must understand who commands the majority. And therefore, once he does that, he is in a position to do what the Constitution tells him to do. But the laws of the land also said that the power to appoint also includes the power to disappoint, meaning the power of removal. And that's all I'm simply saying. To say that you don't have the power of removal is a lie.
But hold that thought, Mr. Hamilton. There's a call on the line. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon to everybody, and greetings in Jesus' name, the only Savior of sinners from their sins and from hell. Now, first of all, I'd like to say all of this motion of no confidence and that sort of stuff, all of this confusion is because we do not obey the Bible. We don't do things according to the Bible. And I'd like to tell Chelsea Hamilton, God only gives wisdom to true Christians who are born again and washed in the blood of Christ. No one else does God give wisdom to. Because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so therefore, that is why we are in all of these confusion, because we do not have the wisdom of God in how we go about our lives and our making our decisions, that sort of stuff. That's why we have this confusion. And if we don't get right with Jesus, things will only get worse and worse and worse to our total destruction if we don't repent and start to obey the word of God.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, caller, for your contribution to this program. We're still taking your calls here on Inside the News at 466-0989 or 762-0989. It is about 15 minutes to the hour of 1. We'll be taking some more calls up until then. and we will continue the conversation. Of course, you can also send us your comment via WhatsApp at 662-2204, 662-2204. Mr. Hamilton, I posed a question earlier, and I lost track of that question. Do you remember what I asked you?
You were asking me about the timeline.
The timeline, yes.
And it is, again, a decision to be made. But I would say, if the speaker goes on hide, are you simply saying that it's not lodged? No, it's the office of the prime minister. I mean, the office of the speaker, and therefore, once it is filed properly, then the time begins to tick away. If people wants to subvert the will of the people, they will find any excuse so to do, and therefore. And to say whether something is properly filed or it's not properly filed and all of that. The House has the right to correct or amend its own rules or anything before it. So all of those things can be corrected even if they are poorly or badly filed. So I'm not even paying any mind to these shenanigans. People are grabbing at straws right now. And why are they grabbing at straw? To prop up a puppet dictator. That's all it is. To prop up somebody who is illegitimate. Anybody with the right moral compass, okay, would, as prime minister in these circumstances, you do not have the support of the majority of your cabinet. You do not have the support of the majority of the elected members in parliament. The proper thing to do is to stop, frustrate the will of the people, and resign. That's the proper thing to do. Let the country go on. The country is not subjected to you and your wishes. That is how it should be. But no, everybody's going to grab at straw. And when people like that behave with what I call malfeasance and mal behavior, you praise it up because badness is charisma, and badness is what you're applauding. And I'm basically saying we cannot continue in an exercise of decadence.
Well, stick with me. We're gonna take some more calls. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Yes, the mere fact that the Governor General found it necessary to consult some kind of legal opinion suggests that it was not expressly obvious in the Constitution that he could have done what the cabinet members were asking. But everything cannot be in the Constitution.
I agree with you.
Right. And therefore, it was subjective, I guess, from the start, from the outset. I am wondering, who does the Governor General revert to in cases where subjectivity is involved? Should it be legal opinion, really? Or should it be the courts? Or should it be the electorate? Right? Because it has to be somebody. And I would imagine, or some entity, and I would imagine that we appoint a Governor General with these things in mind, okay, where he is expected to make monumental decisions based on his experience and wisdom and all that, and training and all that, okay, when these things come up. But not to be left hanging for the country to be agonizing over. So I guess I'm asking about the hierarchy.
Let me ask you a question, please.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to appoint you Governor General, let's say you're Governor General of St. Kitts, you're not schooled in law. Let's say your background is accounting right now, and you were fortunate or unfortunate to be appointed Governor General of St. Kitts and Nevis. and something like this come to you, where this is before you, you need advice. Where would you go for advice? I'm asking you. Where would you go to advice? I know you just listed the court. No, I would not ask you to go to the third branch because something can and may end up there. I wouldn't ask you to do that. There are a number of QCs around St. Kitts, but many of
They all
them
have their own opinions.
right. But you get different opinions. There's nothing wrong in getting different opinions. Okay? Let's look at some of the QCs in St. Kitts. You have Emil Ferdinand, you have Charles Wilkin, you have, the Governor General is one. There's a petition in Anguilla by the name of Thomas Astafan. There is Sir Hugh Rollins. There is Sir Dennis Byron. All of them have QCs. Okay? Let's say you consult those and you get something. It doesn't stop there. The people in the Privy Council and the House of Lords who a Governor General could send a reference to asking for an opinion.
Well, I'm suggesting to you that it's not even really a legal question because we already established that since it was not expressly in the Constitution how to act in situations like this, that it then becomes subjective. What is abundantly clear?
I don't totally agree with you that it becomes subjective, but I hear you. I understand why you're saying that.
Well, if it's not expressly obvious in the law, I would think.
No. You see, because then you are asked to come to a reasonable decision based on processes and procedure. So therefore, I that's why I'm telling you, I don't quite follow you.
Okay.
And I'm on all four. I respect what you're saying, but it's not subjective to him. Okay?
Right.
It is a reasonable decision he must come to based on the process and the procedure and the guidelines that he should follow. That is why I started by asking you who would you go to and what process you would follow. Because you see, a procedural error is a substantive error, and therefore it is important for you to get the process right.
But what is patently obvious, though, can we all agree on this?
Okay.
That the Prime Minister has lost the support of the majority of members in the House?
We can all agree, not only in the members of the House, the elected members of the House, but the majority of his cabinet.
Mm-hmm. Well, caller, we want to take some more calls, so we'll have to end this one with you. But you can continue with your response, Mr. Hamilton, to the caller.
Yeah. And the reason why I draw that one about the majority of the cabinet is because that is a marked difference between him and Denzel Douglas, even though Denzel Douglas had frustrated the will of the people by not bringing the motion against him. But he did not lose the majority of his cabinet. Therefore, the executive. Mm-hmm. You have another caller?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there are no calls right now. It is about 4 minutes to the 1 o'clock hour. The phone lines are still open, and we're taking some more calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. Those of you who have just joined us, we're on the conversation of the motion of no confidence filed on April 25th, and we hope to hear from the Speaker of the National Assembly his legal advice that he said he is seeking. Mr. Hamilton, we have a call. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, brother. Rascal Lungi here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my brother. And I paid homage to you today when I began as one of the persons who, build the foundation of Inside the News.
Anyhow, I mean, you see how these colonial laws got us switched up? It's colonialism all over again. We can't make some decision because the Constitution ain't said this and the Constitution ain't said that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, from adult suffrage, when they leave us with this Westminster system, I keep on saying it, the system needs to be changed. Then the political parties and individuals is the system. We need our own system. That is the problem here. We are not operating based on our people's interests. We got to get our own system and change up a lot of these things. That's why
The call drop out.
Yeah.
But I would like to say to Kalunji, right? Liberate your minds from mental slavery is something that Bob Marley spoke about. Too many of us go back in the Westminster system and think that our system is the same. It is not. We have a constitutional democracy where the constitution supposed to be the supreme law of the land. The Westminster system and the British system is a parliamentary democracy where parliament is the highest order. You know, not the constitution. And therefore, it's a different system, and too often we confuse them. Too often.
Mr. Hamilton, we have some more calls, so we'll head back to the phone lines. Okay, we seem to have lost that call. Please, 466-0989 or 7620989. Of course, we end at 1:30. We're on the conversation of the motion of no confidence. The call is back. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes. Mr. Hamilton speak about us being a lawless, us being not a lawless country, but we are a lawless country because we disobey the laws of God. And in the Bible, lawlessness is disobeying the word of God, not disobeying the word of man, the laws of man, but disobeying the word of God. And that we do from left, right, and center. And not only that, one of the biggest ways in which we are bringing the wrath of God on us with all this confusion in disobeying his laws is considering our man-made constitution and man-made laws to be the supreme law of the land instead of the Bible. And when you put anything above the Bible and disobey the Bible, then this confusion and even worse, much worse, is to be expected because that is what will happen. Only the Bible has the answer, and only the Bible is the supreme law of the land.
Okay, thank you, caller, for your contribution to this program. It is exactly 1 o'clock here in the studios of 1FM 98.9, and we're continuing the conversation this afternoon on the motion of no confidence, a debate going on whether it could be filed by ministers of government, and, you know, when does the official clock begin. Mr. Hamilton will take some more calls, so let us head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, Devon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to Mr. Hamilton.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Hamilton, you said something a little while ago. I think it was just after we came back from the news break.
Mm-hmm.
You said that our ancestors, and correct me, you said our ancestors fought to get us away from colonialism. Let me ask you this, and I'm not going to narrow it down to here, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Caribbean. Don't the Caribbean all, or most of the Caribbean islands, don't they all have a Queen Council? In my opinion, Mr. Hamilton, all those who receive their education in the UK, in Europe, in America, those educated professionals, the lawyers, the doctors, the Queen Councils, what have they received? A piece of paper that says you have a certificate. You are now one of us. Go back to your country and uphold my narrative on your people. Have we moved away from colonialism? There's an African saying that goes like this, and I mean no disrespect to anyone. The dog of a king is king of dogs. Let me repeat this, and I mean no disrespect. The dog of a king has become the king of dogs. Now, last week, Joe Biden said something, and I'm going to repeat what Joe Biden says. Hate does not go away. It hides under a rock until you give it oxygen to come out. Joe Biden know what hate he's talking about. You see what is going on today, Mr. Hamilton? There's a new shift in the system. And when Joe Biden speaks about hate, he knows what hate he's talking about, because today, love has conquered hate. life has overcome death. This war between Ukraine, it's going to spill over to other European countries, right? So when all that we have, and I've said this before, our Prime Minister, they have signed on to European Union. European Union is a body of people. We are more, when I said we, I'm referring to the African melanated black people. We are more than the United Nations. Our politics here, the minority rules the majority. And this is what we have on a global scale. The Europeans, the Americans, they're ruling. But time has changed. Everything is shifting now.
All right.
The Prince, I'm going to finish now, Devon. Prince William was in the Caribbean, and they protest against him. A week after, his uncle came and presented a self-portrait to the Prime Minister of Grenada. How arrogant. They're trying desperately to maintain their illusion. And Prince William said the bond between the realm of the Caribbean is unbreakable. Their illusion, desperately trying to hold on to their illusion, but that bond that he's speaking of, it has already been broken. We need to wake up. Thank you for hearing me.
And thank you, caller, so much for your contribution to this program. Mr. Hamilton, I want to head to some of the comments on the live stream. One says, the problem with the motion of no confidence is that there is little support for it on the ground. The people don't want it. That's why you will not hear anything from the NGOs, the churches, etc. That is why the country remains stable without even a one-man protest anywhere. The vast majority of people in St. Kitts and Nevis have no interest in the motion of no confidence. Let's take this call and I'll get your response. Caller, good up. Caller, good afternoon.
Yeah, man, good afternoon, man.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. How you guys doing, man? How you gentlemen doing?
Hold on, you have a lot of feedback in the background. Could you find a better place?
Yeah, okay, hold on a second.
Here, go ahead.
Yeah, caller?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, here we go. Yeah. How are you gentlemen doing, man? Good afternoon, man.
Good afternoon. Good, thanks.
Yeah, I want to thank that gentleman there, your guest, for coming in today and really putting the information out and his take on the whole situation. This is very educational, and I just wanted to thank him for coming on the program today. And, he brought like a common sense approach, and it ain't everything got to be in the Constitution, but there's a problem that needs to be solved. And in my opinion, the Governor General is the one that's in the position who should try to solve this problem ASAP, rather than keeping the country like hostage. What I realized when I was talking to you yesterday, the Governor General, he responded to that letter and he kept it brief. But if I was in his position, I would have summoned the Prime Minister and all those ministers in Parliament into my chamber, and I'll be taking a decision on my own, and I will be directing them exactly what I want them to do so that we can solve this problem in St. Kitts and Nevis ASAP. The steps that's following should come in rapid succession so they don't drag this thing on. I don't understand. Aren't the Governor General and the Speaker of the House, aren't they qualified and educated enough with the Constitution to make decisions on their own rather than to be seeking advice? I mean, why we have them in these positions in the first place? And it's too much debate going on. Well, how long is this debate going to last for? Like until the original election in 2025? I mean, the ministers indicated that they don't have the confidence anymore, so we have to go to the steps in rapid succession to get this problem solved so the people of the nation can move on. I mean, if it's back to the polls we go, back to the polls. But the motion has been filed, and as far as my interpretation, the motion has been filed correctly. And so then, therefore, the time is now running. You know, it's back to the post we have to go, because at one point I had a notion where, you know, the prime minister is appointed, and just like the gentleman says, just as well as he's appointed, he can be disappointed.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's just too much debate, man.
Okay,
we
well,
be
caller.
waiting and watching.
Well, thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to this conversation. Mr. Hamilton, the question I posed earlier from the comment here, where they're saying the motion is that there is little support for it on the ground, and the caller.
That person, with all due respect, and I appreciate their contribution, but it is peddling a lack of understanding. If we live in a representative democracy, thousands of people voted for those representatives, and we have a representative democracy, and our representatives have gone and said, the majority of us do not support the prime minister. That is the majority support. We live in a representative democracy, okay? Where our representatives represent us in parliament. They represent us, and our representatives, after being elected, have said that they do not support this person. And therefore, that is the majority of the electors. That's the majority of the people. So to say that there is no support when the majority of the people's representative representing them in parliament, and the people send them there to represent them, and they demonstrated, and they're saying, we don't support the prime minister. And if that motion comes to the table, to parliament, not only them, but those who I am certain represent the Labour Party will be voting in favor of the motion. So what is this person trying to peddle? Because we are peaceful and not demonstrating, you're taking our peacefulness as support for the prime minister? You are taking advantage of our civility? Because there is no burning, looting, and barbarism, therefore there is support for the prime minister? Please stop peddle ignorance. With much respect. Understand the process. Understand where we are. And if you understand that we are in a democracy, and our representatives are speaking and demonstrating that this is the position, we send them there and give them a mandate to go there and act on behalf of those constituencies. With that being in mind, how could you dare say that there is no support? Really? Please don't do that.
Mr. Hamilton, it is 10 minutes past the hour of 1. Let's take this short break. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. I have some questions here on the live stream that I would share with you. And when we come back, we will address those questions. Let's take this break, and we will be right back.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
People make the world go round.
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. We have some callers on the line, but as I was sharing with you off air, Mr. Hamilton, there are some comments here on the live that I would want for you to address. The first one is, why do you think the BVI motion of no confidence introduced by the Deputy Premier was filed, tabled, debated and decided upon in less than 24 hours, but the St. Kitts Nevis motion of no confidence filed by the Deputy Prime Minister has not to this day received a response from the Speaker? And the second question, would you agree with Timothy Harris's position prior to the 2015 election that Denzil Douglas was an illegal Prime Minister? After 6 of 11 reps indicated to the GG that they no longer support him as Prime Minister. And would you also characterize Harris similarly as an illegal Prime Minister after 6 of 11 told the GG that they no longer support him as Prime Minister?
Let me deal with the first question.
Okay.
The BVI.
Yes.
I really would be ashamed to answer the BVI question. You understand me? Because of the players and the actors. No matter how good a document you write, it still depends on the people to execute it. And if you want to tell me that the people who are in power to execute this document in St. Kitts, as opposed to those in the BVI to execute those, and the only difference, because all people went to the best schools. They are intelligent, they are educated, and so on. So, and many times it's a patronage and so on, appointment from the colonial relic where they send someone out to be governor and so on. And sometimes those people aren't even as qualified as the people that we have in place or as educated. But they understand the entitlement and the power that they have, and they act. And if you're telling me that they are more capable of doing what is right than our people, I would be embarrassed to go down that road. I would be embarrassed. I really don't want to. But it comes down to the players and the actors in terms of who are exercising these discretion and making these decisions. And therefore, the players in the BVI are different, and they have taken a certain process in the best interest of their politics, polity, and state. And I'll rest it there. On the other question in terms of the Timothy Harris and the Denzil Douglas affair,
and him being illegal then.
Let me verse here, okay? I took on Denzil Douglas and took him on at his height of his powers, okay? But I have 2 degrees in politics and 1 in law, okay? An LLB in law. And I'm going to say to you, there's a difference between the executive and the legislature. What is going on here is that Timothy do not have the support of the majority of the executive. Neither does he have the support of the majority of the legislature. The difference is, at the time of Denzil Douglas, the law was different, and that the motion was to be brought, I think, at a convenient time. I don't really have the proper language before me, and somebody would forgive me.
Yeah, but I'm familiar
but
with
it was something to the extent that it was at a convenient time. And the issue was what was or what is convenient, or what it wasn't convenient. The word was not convenient. But it was, the time was not specified. And Denzil Douglas played that and continued to play that to his benefit. That's why they now pass the law and say 21 days, so that the will of the people could not be frustrated like that. So yes, if it had come to a vote in the parliament, Denzel Douglas would have been found. There is a different process in place to bring this thing to the parliament so that the vote in the parliament among the elected persons, where also Timothy Harris would not have so he's frustrating the will of the parliament, as Denzel Douglas did when he's trying to do it differently, even though there is a different process in place. Rather than a convenient time, there is now a 21-day limit. So I'm just simply telling you, let us get it right. Denzel Douglas still had the support of his cabinet. Timothy Harris doesn't. He does not have the support of the majority of his cabinet. Whether you want to then come to a conclusion about illegal or illegitimate, I am not coming to the conclusion about illegal. I am simply saying he has no moral priority, and anybody with any compass, moral compass or ethics would resign. If the vote comes, then he would be illegitimate, because that is what makes him illegal. Okay? But legit, not illegal, legit, he has no legitimacy right now. But I would not use the word illegal. So the person asks a question, and I hope I have explained myself in it. You know what I'm happy for? I am happy because during the state of emergency, 2 years of COVID, many times, even to speak the truth in a state of emergency, you could get yourself arrested. A lot of people didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That if you speak the truth, and the truth brought about what they considered, the executive considered disquiet, you could get arrested. We ain't in a state of emergency. My fundamental rights now are in place. Okay? And therefore, my fundamental right to speak on these things cannot be taken away without due process. And therefore, I am not afraid to speak truth to power. I might have remained quiet during the last 2 years because there was a state of emergency. And during the state of emergency, the Emergency Powers Act gives the executive the power to arrest you for even speaking the truth. And people didn't know that. And that's why I used to stay quiet. During those days when people suspended my right to conscience, to the right to expression, to right to religion, to right to freedom of all of those things, suspend them and what I would consider willy-nilly. Okay? And I'm basically saying no. I'm basically saying no. I can speak truth to power. And if Timothy Harris had a moral compass, he would resign.
Mr. Hamilton, let's head back to the phone lines. We have some more calls. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Hello, caller. Good afternoon. You're on the air. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Let's take some more calls at 4660989 or 7620989. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, everybody out there in Radio Land, and good afternoon, Mr. Cornelius. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm doing fine, thank you.
I just want to commend you primarily for the manner in which you orchestrate these very delicate and tentative affairs. We need someone like you in these perilous times at the helm. Thank you again. And as to my classmate, Chesley Hamilton, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well.
Oh, boy, we claim you from Keon. You're one of our very brightest stars. I thank you, especially after listening to you. And I have to say that your insightful analysis proves to me once again that your intellectual acumen is still as sharp as a knife. Your magnificent attempt to illuminate the thorny legal complexities involved in the issue under discussion bears the unmistakable stamp of your customary professionalism. Thanks for a great job done. But for all of that, the ambiguities loom even larger now, in my mind at least, and I dare say I speak for the listening public, precisely because of this newly acquired clarity. My question is there any end in sight? No legal eagle seems capable of answering this very compelling question. And if so, when? Just a tentative and conservative estimate, if you will, to relieve the captive voters of protracted and irritating suspense. My take on all this is, why complicate simplicity? What would happen if all 6 members supporting the motion of no confidence, were to resign? Won't this trigger the resignation of the Prime Minister automatically?
No, Enver, stick a pin there. Stick a pin. If they resign, all that they're doing,
and reapply the motion of no confidence.
No, Enver, if they resign, let's say they resign from cabinet.
Yes.
The Prime Minister would still have a cabinet, and he will have the majority support within there. You see, there is something called a minority government, and there could be a minority executive. When the government was formed, Enver, the government in 2015 was formed when Timothy Harris and Junior Vincent Byron was sworn in. 2 people. And that was the government. That was the executive. The others were sworn in sometime later in Warner Park. So therefore, if all of these guys resign, there still is a government. There still is an executive. So it makes no sense for them to resign to give Timothy Harris a majority within the cabinet. Right now, he doesn't even have a quorum within his cabinet because he is in a minority in his own cabinet. The man has no moral authority to govern.
Chesley.
Yes.
One further statement, because time is of the essence, and I want to listen you offline.
Yes.
So that other people could potentially get in.
Yes.
I'd like to talk to you forever, actually, but let's be considerate, please.
Yes.
I am saying that the heightened, one other comment.
Yeah.
The heightened state of uncertainty and the dislocation of cabinet, does it signal to you national destabilization? And number 2, how long do you think any nation can actually abide this state of heightened suspense without buckling under the pressure? And lastly, you know that because of very acute and noticeable and undeniable transgression, we penalize the former administration to send them a clear and unmistakable message that this is a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Should we do anything less to be this bunch of what I call political reprobates? Presently, I will listen to you off air because this afternoon you are punching above your weight. And I thank you so much for spending this much time with us and for your provocative questions to Mr. Cornelius. Have a great day, one and all. Good afternoon, folks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to this program. Mr. Hamilton?
Is there any insight? Like I told you, the Constitution at Section 46 speaks to that Parliament must be called at least 180 days after the last sitting.
Yes.
And I think that was sometime in December. So therefore, 180 days from then when they debated the budget, the Parliament hasn't really met for the year, I think. And so therefore, I think sometime in June, the Parliament must meet at the outset. So there is some hope unless somebody wants to further frustrate the will of the people. That's that. How long can a country last before it buckles under something like this? It should not even be able to last a minute. You understand? Right now, the mandate of the Prime Minister to act on behalf of the support of cabinet just isn't there. He has no legitimate authority to act. You understand? Because he cannot come and say the majority of them has voted for this policy, and so say all of we. He cannot say it because the majority is not voting with him for anything. And therefore, once that is the case, the collective responsibility of cabinet, that is why you can't come out of cabinet and say, oh, I voted for this and somebody voted against it, because that is your oath. Your oath is secrecy about the vote, not about what happened in cabinet, not the decision of cabinet. Because the decision of cabinet is a collective one which says all of us vote for it. But the truth is you're not supposed to say how anybody voted. Mm-hmm. That is the oath that you take. The oath is specific to how anyone who voted.
Right.
You can't come and say, boy, when I come up in cabinet, I ain't vote for it. So-and-so did not vote for it. That is to breach cabinet secrecy. That is against the oath that you took. You understand? So I'm basically saying we should not be able to last 1 minute, never mind 1 hour, now 1 week, now 1 month with this going on. Timothy Harris, having lost the support of the majority of the executive, should resign.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution, Mr. Hamilton. We are actually out of time. It is 1:30. Let me say thank you for accepting the invitation to come on the program today. I wish I can take some more of the questions. A number of questions are here on the live stream, but of course in the future we would be able to continue this conversation. As I must say, I do expect that this will continue. It will prolong, but we're entering a new week, which should be the end of the 21 days for the motion of no confidence. So we're hoping to hear from the Speaker on his independent legal advice, whether this motion will be heard or tabled in the National Assembly, and essentially where do we go from there? Where do we go from there? Will we see a general election? Would the Prime Minister ask the Gigi to dissolve the Parliament before there is a hearing of the motion? What will happen? Guys, we're out of time. This has been another edition of Inside the News. And let me just give Mr. Hamilton the opportunity to give some closing remarks, and we will end the program for today. Mr. Hamilton?
Thank you for having me again, and thanks WINNFM and its board of directors for having me and giving me the opportunity to express my views and my opinion, whether they're political or legal. And I respect the callers, no matter who they are or what they are, what their viewpoint is. Whether it's Gregory, Kalunji, whoever, Enver, all of you contribute to the universal discourse that we are having and continue to have. I just hope that I could add my twopence halfpenny, and that my twopence halfpenny can at least add some value to the universal discourse that we are having politically, legally, and socially. And therefore, the opportunity given to me by the Fourth Estate, and I am happy that today we are not living under any state of emergency, and I am not afraid to speak truth to power. And again, thank you for having me, and may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to the Most High. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton.
And before I go, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and to my lovely mother in Toronto, and my sister Diane, who is a mother as well. I say Happy Mother's Day tomorrow to you and to all the mothers of the Federation and those listening to us.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton, again for coming on the program today. This has been another edition of Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9 for Saturday, May 7, 2022. And I've been your host, Devon Cornelius, with guest Chesley Hamilton on the conversation of the motion of no confidence right here in St. Kitts and Nevis and the response by the Governor General to the 6 elected representatives concerning the removal of Dr. Timothy Harris as Prime Minister. Until next time, you guys stay safe. And I also would like to wish all the mothers out there, including mine, right over in Nevis, a happy Mother's Day. Take care.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Buildings damaged by an earthquake are dangerous. This is not the time for sightseeing.